And we told you I'm the official ambassador for breast cancer this month. October is always declared the breast cancer month, where, you know, creating awareness about it. About a percentage of men are affected by breast cancer. If you don't know, I'm telling you. And so just don't think. And I was just reading about 2 days ago about Beyonce's father who had been infected or affected by breast cancer. So, but we have to do the discussions, and we have some of the best family health practitioners in the studio. And I have Dr. Irajua Kankamyabwa. She's the family medicine, family medicine resident, the Nyaho Medical Center right here in Accra. And thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And I see that Nyaho, now you have 2 places now you're operating from.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all, but the second one is Plush. Where is it?
It's at the Octagon. It's a satellite clinic. Yes.
Great, great. But at the end of the day, we keep having awareness about what breast cancer is, etc. But when typically we want to create the awareness, what would we say breast cancer is?
So breast cancer is a cancer. So to simplify things, it's just your body cells not moving in line or not behaving the way they are supposed to, growing out of the bounds and doing things that they are not supposed to do. And eventually it spreads not just from one location, but it's going to the other. So you can have cancer virtually anywhere, but our focus for today is breast cancer. Yes.
And in country, do we have statistics? Do you have a database of information we've collected?
We do have a lot of statistics. Breast cancer is actually the leading cancer that kills women in not just Ghana, but in developing countries. In more developed countries, it's about the 3rd breast killer, because they have lung cancer, because smoking is more prevalent there. We are picking up more breast cancer nowadays, but not just because it's happening more frequently, but we are now becoming a bit more skilled in picking it up. The awareness is coming a bit higher, so people too are on the lookout, and we're able to pick it a little bit earlier than before. And that's what we're trying to do, because breast cancer is curable in its early stages. And that's why the emphasis is so much on early detection. Yeah.
Do you also talk about prevention? If you do, what would be perhaps some of the lifestyle actions we can undertake?
So when we say prevention in our medical terms, it means something that would completely not let it happen, okay? But we can talk about things that will make you less likely to have the breast cancer. So one of them is a good diet. Good diet, very rich in vegetables, very rich in fruits. We are all guilty of this. We are taking a lot of fatty foods, we are taking a lot of processed foods, high salt, nitrite diets, fizzy drinks. We need to really cut back, because studies have shown that people who have good diets, have good exercise, good body weights, they tend to have less frequency of breast cancer. Of course, there are other things that make you a bit more likely to get it that you can't do anything about. Something like the family you were born into. Because if you have a mother or an aunt or a sister who has breast cancer, you are going to be more at risk than the average person who doesn't have any relative. And actually what studies are showing is that if you have a mother or a sister, you are 4 times more likely than the average person to develop breast cancer. And even some cancers have also been implicated. In women, ovarian cancer also makes you more likely to develop breast cancer as well. Not just you having it, but other people in your family getting that as well.
And at the end of the day, the lifestyle becomes an important component of trying to live, not necessarily prevention, but also trying to live the life.
Yes, it does.
Making sure you avert the mind to how you have to perhaps or get not only the knowledge but also associate with it. In Ghana, what extremes do we go by way of the lifestyle, for which, even though necessarily we can't have a direct link, but also are some of the pointers that we have to look out for, both in men and women? Okay,
so one of the things, like we've already talked about, is diet. And in Ghana, unfortunately for us, our staples are starches. So everybody's all about the fufu, everybody's all about the banku and whatnot. And recently, what everybody talks about is yam and pork and whatnot. So those are the things that we really need to cut back. We are not sensitized as a country. I mean, it's unless somebody wants to lose weight, it's very unusual to hear people say, "Oh, I want to have maybe vegetables for dinner." Unless somebody, you know, it's not us. It's not us. It's very not us. But we need to make it us, because we've picked up a lot of, should I say, bad habits, all as education and exposure to the Western world has come up. Previously, I'm sure your great-grandmother, even though she would have her ampim, the distance she would have walked to the farm to even go and harvest that plantain and bring it back home, it's more than enough exercise. But here we have a lot of convenience. Everything is at our fingertips. We are not working. Everybody is doing a sedentary job. You sit in your office, you sit in wherever for long hours. By the time you get home, you are too tired. So when they say go exercise, go do anything, it makes it a bit, you feel like you're already tired, you know. So right now there's a shift to try and get people to do what we call free living exercise. And what we are saying is that you may not be able to craft that time that you need to say, I'm going to the gym for an hour, or I'm going to the gym for an hour and a half. But what we are pushing for is more like, if maybe normally you use a lawnmower to cut your grass, what we are saying is, try and see if you can do half of it with a machete, you know, and just try to burn some calories with your scrubbing, with your cleaning, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Because you're more exposed to the treatment and perhaps the diagnosis, etc. What have you noticed by way of the pattern? Maybe not necessarily only at Nyaho, but what the general condition is among you, the professionals, is the pattern in Ghana. That's why actually whether we have the statistics, because I'm about to ask the questions on the related whether we've been able to pick up some basic information, and that is in a database we can always refer to. In terms of the women who tend to get affected, are they from urban, peri-urban, rural, remote, you know, in relation to the demographics?
Okay, so you do have a lot more people from urban areas being picked up. But again, that's because they have access to more hospitals and whatnot. People in the periphery, you know, they have maybe just one community health center that they go to. Everybody has to trek. So for them, it's really difficult for them to pick it up at the early stages when they don't have that knowledge, you know. I'm sure your wife, your friends, they are hearing this, they are listening to this program, they are going to places where they are talking about it. So now everybody is very self-aware and self-conscious. Everybody is checking on their breast. So even when there's nothing, like, you pick it up and you come to the facility. So yes, we're able to pick it up a lot more in the urban areas. But that's not to say the rural areas or the less urban areas don't have that. That's what makes, should I say, our data collection a bit flawed, because we can only work with what we actually have. You understand?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. So that would mean that we also have rural women, or those living in rural part of our country affected.
Yes, we do.
It's because they don't have access to the facilities like those in the urbanized areas too.
Yes.
And that's why the frequency of reporting is more in the demographics related to urban and peri-urban.
Yes, and you find that those in the rural areas, usually by the time they come back, they report to us. It's usually far advanced because they've not been able to pick it up early. And that's why we are switching from come and let's, you know, do this or let's do that to let's let people hear it. And now a lot of people are taking up that mantle. So you have people who do rural outreach to go and talk to people. Even for Nyaho Medical Center, we've done community-based volunteer training just on the 30th of September, where people actually go. The training was done in Accra, yes, but the whole point is that people can go to their communities, they can educate, they've been trained on how to pick it up and even teach people on how to detect it themselves. Okay.
It's good that you mention advance and it talks about the cases, right? Yeah. Before you get to the diagnosis.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It means that if it's advanced, there will be a stage in which it's early enough. Yeah. Does it mean that we have graduated stages?
Yes, so we have different stages of breast cancer, okay. And usually we would like to see you at stage 1, where it's just fixed or localized in the breast. You have maybe the cancer is there, all right, but it's just to an affected area, maybe spread to what we call the lymph nodes, which can be found just around the armpit area. So that's usually where we would like to find it, because at that point it's very easy. You can take out the cancerous areas, give the person the surgery or the radiation that they need, and then you'll be fine. But when we say it's late, it's what we call metastatic, or what that means is that it's spread. So
metastatic.
Yes. So what that means is that it's moved from the breast, it's gone to other regions, it's spread to the back, spread to the bones, spread to the liver, and then when it becomes that generalized, then it becomes a bit more complicated to treat, and then the chances are a bit not as favorable as it is before.
Get out of that stage.
Yeah.
So does it mean that those who tend to die, or the fatalities you record as a result of it, will be from women who report it late, or patients? Because now I know that, yeah.
Yes. So yes, a few people who, when people report late, we tend to have more mortalities, or we tend to lose them a bit earlier than those who report early. But sometimes too, what happens is people do report early, they are giving the counseling, offer the treatment, but because of certain prejudices or fears that they have, they refuse treatment until it's a bit too late. And that's really what we are trying to avoid. So there's actually a group called Change Young Minds,
Change Young Minds
too as well, which is also going around to secondary schools, educating young, because that's the point that you want to get them. You don't want to wait until they are old, and then
so you catch
if
them
they have
young.
you catch them young, you help them to know this is breast cancer. Yes, it's not the best thing, but there is hope once you come up across. And one of the things that we find is that most women are very concerned, because they feel that, oh, if I go to the hospital with this, immediately they'll tell me that, you know, cut the breast off, so they don't want that. And you know, for women, our breasts are really an integral part of who you are. It's a sign of your femininity. It's, you know, what society used to, I mean, as soon as you see someone's breast, immediately you know. And even amongst men, you realize when they also start developing breasts, it's like, hey, where is this coming from? Because it's normally associated with women. But now, you know, medicine has gone so far that even when they have to do the mastectomy, that is when they have to take the affected breast off, they are able to do reconstructive surgery. So they take out the cancerous breast, but they are able to reconstruct a new breast for you. So that's
what material?
With your same, they put an implant in, and then they use your own tissue. So at the end of the day,
have no effect?
The implants have no effect. They are implants which have been used for many, many years. So much studies have been done on them,
and
no
then
issues.
They do a graft or something.
And then just cover it up. And
somewhere.
You look good, not just with your clothes on, but even when you take it off, you know, you still see them.
Could be done in Ghana?
All of this is being done in Ghana.
Being done?
Being done in Ghana. Yeah.
Ghana.
Ghana here.
Okay. But it's good that you mentioned prejudice, because that averted my mind, because when I was reviewing the literature, and having also spoken to a few of my mates, especially the females who work in this, they talked about how there were hindrances socio-culturally, and you know of them? Yes.
So like I mentioned, one of the issues especially is the fear of losing the breast. So that's one is also there. People have a very deep-seated aversion for orthodox medicine, especially in Ghana. You know, most people, when they have any conditions, it's like, let me go and try some hair. But oh yes, and you would be surprised. This is not rural people we are talking about. This is very educated, very modern, young people. But they tell you, oh, okay, I read on the internet that this herb is going to, so let me try this, let me apply that. And then they want to do that, you know, before they come. And unfortunately too, because of the burden on the government's hospital, sometimes there are a lot of delays, you know. Some people may report a bit early, oh, I want to do X, I want to do Y. But you come and maybe they'll tell you the number of folders that they are taking for that day is, you know, we've finished taking it, so come again, you know, another time. And that's why we are trying to remove the emphasis, remove the breast screening from the hospital, the normal everyday program of the hospital. So most clinics, most hospitals are setting aside a separate space, a separate time to do these screenings, so that if anybody has any concerns, you can just walk straight. You don't have to go and make a folder, go and do X, go and do Y, just to get your breast checked, you know. Because in the long run, when we help others, we also help ourselves, you know.
Yeah. Obesity and all that.
Yeah.
But the socio-cultural issues, you get to find. I'm watching TV.
Yes.
And I find a lot of churches these days, and you could see that the person has a growth. You could see that it's developed in a certain way, but the prophet is saying that it's the grandmother or something like that. Are these daily stories that you tend to encounter, in which you see that they should have rather be averting to some medical treatment instead of?
So the religiosity is also a problem, you know. Everybody wants to pray, everybody wants to go to a prayer camp. And I mean, I'm a spiritual person, I also believe in that. But I also think that ultimately, in as much as we cast the blame on the churches, and that's how come we are also trying to educate everyone that when you see this, do reports. In as much as the churches also have a role to play, I also believe you as the individual have the onus on you, you know, because at the end of the day, whatever happens, it's really going to affect you directly. So it's all right to pray. We are not discounting the role of prayer or having a good support, but medicine also has a role. I believe God gave doctors the knowledge and the skills as a way of helping his people. So your imam can also do his bit, but also come and let us do our bit.
Fantastic. Which church do you attend?
Trinity United Church.
Trinity. Who is the chief executive?
It's not. It's should I say Orthodox Church? Okay. So we don't have a CEO.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now moving on, it looks like many of the statistics you get to find are only related to the West, the US and Europe.
Yeah.
And statistics generally in sub-Saharan Africa seem to be almost non-existent. They seem to be extrapolations. Why?
Basically because research costs money, and people are not so willing to fund research.
You mean governments in Africa are not willing to?
Governments, individuals, corporations, because obviously they are looking for things that will give them a good turnover. So it's easier to fund an entertainment, something that will give you more visibility, than to fund research, which is usually behind the scenes. However, I have to commend a lot of institutions, because now people are trying to do their own bit. Of course, it won't be as much as a concerted effort which is being sponsored, but I think in the various facilities now, people are trying to collect data, people are trying to get some statistics, because, you know, when you look at what the data that we previously used to have, breast cancer was initially seen to be very common at around age 50 and at around age 70.
Yeah, I even had that perception.
Yes, but on the ground, when you go to the clinic, you realize that younger women are coming. We have 35-year-olds who have breast cancer. You have, you know, 30-year-olds who come with a lump, which is breast cancer. So that's what's making us be more aggressive in trying to get our own data. 30-year-olds are coming with cancer. So you want to be a bit more aggressive in getting your own data and things that actually pertain to the situation that you find yourself in. Yeah.
No, Raja, it's good that you mentioned this. The lump.
Yes.
And then a lump that is cancerous. What's the difference?
So the only 100% bona fide way to know that a lump is non-cancerous is when we do what we call the biopsy. So we take a sample, we take it to the lab. However, there are certain characteristics that we've seen that also make us think more inclined that this lump may be cancerous. If the lump is very hard, if the borders of it's not smooth, very irregular, if it seems attached to the skin that's lying on top of it or beneath it, then we begin to think that, okay, like, we think that this is cancer. And then also, I mentioned lymph nodes before. When the lump is cancerous, it tends to affect the lymph nodes as well. And you would also find them very, we say palpable, but it just means you are really able to feel it, yes.
So is that stage one?
So that's maybe stage one. But
what is me?
So staging,
I'm not sure.
so that's why I said the only bona fide way to know that it's cancerous.
You've done everything.
So when you've done the biopsy, it depends on how localized or where it is.
So at what point do you say this is a stage 1?
So when it's stage 1, then you know that the lump is just localized in the breast. Yes, and then you may or may not have the lymph nodes.
I'm thinking, if the lump is localized, there,
yes.
does it mean that once you have big breasts, it means that the lump will be equivalent to the size of the breast?
No,
so
it does
even
not.
though it's stage 1, it's big, but it's
no,
1.
So the stage,
and then when it's small then it's small.
No, so how cancerous the lump is. So you can have, so there are other conditions that can cause lumps in the breast. There's something that we call fibroadenoma. That's just a ball of connective tissue. You usually find that in younger people. So you can have a very large lump, and that may just be a fibroadenoma. And somebody may have a smaller lump, and that may be cancerous. So it's very, you don't want to use the size of the lump. Yes, but when we are staging, sometimes we may use those things, but for whether cancer or non-cancer, you don't want to use the size of the lump. Yes.
Well, we're still having some great conversations with Dr. Irajua Kankam Yeboah. She's a family medicine resident with Nyaho Medical Center right here in Accra, and the education is great. October month is breast cancer month on the show. We've been doing this for years right here on the show, and officially for TV, for the AM show, I'm the breast cancer ambassador, because we have about a percentage of the cases representing men, and according to the statistics that I read, not related to Ghana but worldwide, about 550 men are expected to die from it this year. So it's something that we have to take a look at. But so it means you have some lineup of activities?
Yes. So
just to mark the month?
Yes, we do. So I mentioned the training of the community-based volunteers. That has been done. That happened on the 30th. But this Saturday, on the 5th of October, we are actually having what we've called a booby walk, and that is just to raise breast cancer awareness. Booby walk. Breast. Boob.
Breast walk.
A breast walk, or a booby walk, as we've called it. Yes, and we are going to try and tackle the Ebri Mountain. So we'll be going from Aimensa. Yes, and that's on this Saturday on the 5th. And we also have a very good aerobic session afterwards with Coach Bino, who is coming. All of this is just to try and raise awareness. We are also having weekly breast screening exercises at our airport branch, Nyaho Medical Center.
So when will be the next? I want to come
on the 9th.
On the 9th.
Yes, so it's every Wednesday, 8 to 2. Just come, get your breast checked. You don't need to go through the usual hassle. We'll be doing some community outreaches at well. And what we're actually aiming for is that this year we want to do a minimum of 6,000 breasts. We want to make sure that 6,000 breasts have been checked and have been declared cancer-free, or even if there's anything suspicious, they've been checked out.
We're going to have you in the studio again, so you show us, because we're doing every week, so you show us how.
Not a problem, not a problem at all. I'm always available to come.
All right. I also did get information that it affects more black women and all that. So, we'll talk about it in the next episode.
No problem.
But do you encourage men, like those of us who are married or have girlfriends or are attracted to women, and so we would want to just do the assessment ourselves? Is it possible for men to do that? It is
not a problem at all, and I think all stakeholders, like you've mentioned, should also be empowered. That's why we are educating everyone. And one last thing I forgot to mention too, as we've already talked about, all this education, all this awareness, it's not being funded. So what we are trying to do is to try and raise some funds for the awareness. Like the lovely t-shirt that I have on, it says,
did it yourself?
It's done by the Nyaho Medical Center, but it's purely for fundraising. It will be available for sale. Hello Titty. And at the back, if I could just turn.
Just turn on like this.
Yes, you can just see get screened. So it's just. Yes, so this and many other souvenirs, the pink ribbons, you can just purchase some so that we can also go ahead to create the awareness and educate people. And it's available whenever you go to our facility as well.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a great conversation. It's Breast Cancer Month. The official, and the next time I'm having this conversation, I'll have some nice t-shirt for you. You're going to see e-posters of me and all that, and a lot more interaction I'm going to do. Look at the examination centers, go to possibly Nyaho and examine somebody, and have some great time. So we'll stick and stay with you on this subject.
Sure,
okay?
Thank you.
And please, I hope that you also will carry the information forward, get interactive on our social media handles, and let us get to know all that we're talking about. Family resident
Medicine.
medicine. Okay. A family medicine resident, that's Nyaho Medical Center, has been here with us. Dr. Irajwa Kankam Yaboa. Thank you. All right.